stoppage time in this first half. That's delightful. Lovely takedown too. Lembikisa! That is magnificent! And that's how you score your first goal for Jamaica! Lembikisa with a scorcher in the 41st minute of play, and the Reggae Boys have the lead once again.
Yeah, so that's the goal that earned Jamaica's Reggae Boys their first win over Panama since 2019, and third place, the best finish by a Caribbean team ever in the CONCACAF Nations League. The 20-year-old London fullback Dexter Lembikisa, as Donald suggested, with that 41st minute streamer, his first goal for Jamaica, which was enough to earn him or Hallgrimsson a 1-0 victory. His side, a 1-0 victory at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Coach Hallgrimsson was full of praise for the team's tactical display.
Tactical-wise, we played a good performance. Maybe not the best game we have played, but I think we showed by this performance that we can play whatever national team in the world and have a chance against them if we play as tactical as we did today. So,
now, with the World Cup qualifying set to begin in June and the Copa America to follow, Hallgrimsson says the team is moving in the right direction.
His goal is to try to reach the World Cup finals. But this is a good step to play important matches, to play big tournaments, and to play strong opponents like we did. US and Panama are the two of the three highest ranked CONCACAF teams, and we showed we are close in this gap, even with a number of players not with us.
And joining us to review the game, former Trinidad and Tobago international defender Brent Sancho, who actually predicted the correct results in the TNT game against Canada. We'll get to that in a moment, Brent. But your thoughts on the Jamaican triumph over Panama? They've been a very difficult opponent for Jamaica over the decades, but they got the job done last evening, and that Lembikisa strike was pretty special, wasn't it?
Yeah, certainly getting their job done. But I think it's a lot bigger than that when you look at it, Lance. When you look at what Coach Hallgrimsson had to deal with coming into the tournament, all of the rhetoric outside about, of course, the Liam Bailey fiasco, missing players through injury, and, of course, suspensions, and a lot of different things bubbling in and around, and, of course, the GFF election as well that went on. And a lot of things that could have taken the attention away from the task at hand. But when you look at the tournament in its total, he's done a really tremendous job. You talk about his tactical flexibility. People question whether or not he could switch away from his 4-4-2, and he played a 3-5-2 for most of the tournament to his success. And he's also shown that a different side to the way that Jamaica can play and still get results. So I think all in all, it has been an extremely successful tournament. I fully agree with what he said, that the team is going in the right direction. I want to add as well that this is a Jamaica team that has now proved that it's on another level, meaning that it can compete with some of the better teams in world football.
Yeah, and Hallgrimsson did say that in as many words in the post-match press conference, Brent. But more specifically, what are the areas of performance in this team that convinces you that they can match strides with, at the global level in a more profound way than you probably would have suggested 3 or 4 years ago?
I think structurally their shape was magnificent throughout the tournament. They kept discipline. It's something that we always talk about with Caribbean teams, that they lose discipline after a couple of minutes, and they seem to lose concentration and lose focus. This is a Jamaica team that is throughout have been fully indulged in the task that they had at hand. I like how they look defensively solid, and there is depth within. I thought Hector had a tremendous tournament. Of course, Damian Lowe playing as a 6, as a disruptor in the middle of the park. He had a very good stint as well in both games. And then you still talk about the pieces to be added in terms of course, Mikel Antonio. We hope that things work out with Leon Bailey. There is conversation about Mason Greenwood possibly joining. So when you look at it, and of course in the middle of the park, Ravel Morrison, etc., may come back into things. I just feel that those sorts of pieces now really give you a look from a Jamaica perspective that suggests, of course, they can do well in the Copa America, which is to come. And before that, in June, in the World Cup games against Dominica and Dominican Republic, that they will get results there. So they're starting to show the pedigree of a genuine contender, not just in the CONCACAF region, but can cause a couple of results, even possibly in the Copa America.
Yeah, and Brent, you outlined just now briefly, the different issues that led up to, of course, this victory. And one of the things that coach went on to say in his post-match interview is the fact that now he's aware that he has more weapons at his disposal. Many of the players now are, of course, the team is not as predictable as before. And I think that is such an important point, because what coach is trying to say, of course, Brent, is before people would expect the regular players, to make the team, and they would plan accordingly for the Jamaica Reggae Boys. Now coach is in a better position, because at any point in time, based on the different players that have gotten the opportunity and have really taken that opportunity and stepped up, he's in a better place now.
Yeah, he's certainly in a better place, and I think he has a better understanding of his group. I remember not too long ago on this very same program, I was basically defending his tenure because he'd had one or two difficult results, and there was a lot of conversation in Jamaica about whether or not he is the right man. But when you look at his work and what he's been able to do since he's taken the post, he has taken his time to get to understand the pieces that he has for his puzzle. And now that he feels that he has a spine and he's starting to get the edges around the puzzle and now putting in the different ingredients, he has a full understanding, not just about the depth, but about the tactical flexibility that he does possess. I mentioned the fact that he's more now going to a three-back system that looked very, very good in terms of their structure and the way they set up. And he can go back to even a four. If he wanted to, he could pull Damian Lowe back into the midfield. Of course, Ladabadea has gone back defensively, who gives him a bit of extra pace. So all throughout the squad, he's starting to see his team. And of course, I didn't even mention Pinnock, who's still in to come into this squad. So when you look at it and what he has and what he could possibly do and the flexibility that he himself has as a coach, I think it only bode well for Jamaica in the World Cup qualifiers to come, and as I said, in the Copa America as well.
And Brent, one of the things also I really, really rate about coach is the fact that he's not afraid to single out players. Most times when you ask a coach, and I mean, I've been in these press conferences where I ask a question about a particular player and the coach gives me a generic answer like, okay, well, it was a team effort and everybody contributed. And I mean, I could rehearse those answers over and over and over. Coach was not afraid to single out that he has a lot of time for Damian Lowe. Damian Lowe is a warrior when it comes to the team. He really steps up. He also spoke about Kaheem Dixon, saying that, this is a player that got the opportunity and took the opportunity with both hands. So I single out these players as coach's example to ask you if you saw any players that is worth mentioning, that you felt as if really lifted this Jamaica Reggae Boys team to this victory.
Well, not to be biased, I would go to the defenders. I really thought Hector had a superb tournament throughout both games. Anderson as well at the back. Latabade, as I said, moving back into the back three. I thought they were just outstanding in what they did, block shots, their positional play, anticipation, and they were brave in everything that they did. Look, at the end of the day, it's certainly not the perfect picture that Jamaica has currently, because they still need to work on progressing the ball from the defense to the middle of the park, be a little bit more patient when it comes to possession. But what the attributes that they showed throughout these two games suggest to me that they're not just playing for their badge or their country or their family, they're also playing for that coach. And that is huge, because we've had so many conversations about just Jamaica national team post-France in 98 about playing for coaches and different coaches coming in and whatnot. But you're actually seeing performances of players that are battling down and giving a performance to the coach, line by line, instruction by instruction as to what he wants. And that is, as I said, is a credit to the coach of what he's been able to do so far.
Yeah, Brent, before we move on to Trinidad and Tobago, just one more quick one on the Jamaica issue. It's surprising to me that they're still individuals across Jamaica who have concern about whether Hallgrimsson is capable of taking this team where it is obviously capable of going. But I want you to address the concern I hear from a few that Hallgrimsson is a defensive-minded coach with the best attacking unit the country has probably ever seen.
Listen, I think that's a problem that we have throughout the Caribbean, that we don't like to accept who we are and what we are, and both is probably the similar case when we have this conversation about Trinidad and Tobago, is that we still have the struggles in Jamaica, I'm talking about, with possessing the ball and progressing from defense to midfield. So yes, you do have very good attacking players, but to get the ball to those attacking players, you need to have defenders that are very comfortable on the football, a la Barcelona, Manchester City. You need to have midfielders that are very comfortable in playing in the pocket and playing in spaces, which you still don't have necessarily. And when those two things eventually comes together, then you can start playing a bit more and trying to play, and then setting up tactically in that vein. And I think that's what people need to understand. It's very easy to suggest that, yes, you do have great attacking players, but how are you going to get the football to them if you don't have the players to bring it to the players? So I think that's one of the things that people need to recognize. And he's done a good job at understanding, first and foremost, his defensive solidity. Now I'm very sure he will explore in his options to make the team a little bit more offensively potent.
Yeah, very much agree with you on that one, Brent. So, not to be for your sweet TNT, by the way, Brent losing 2-0 to Canada in their Copa America playoff. That was on Saturday. Before we pick up this discussion, let's hear from the Trinidad and Tobago head coach, Angus Eve.
I thought for the most part, the game plan went really well. We created some really good chances, and for a team that is ranked 96 and playing against a team that ranked about 40-something positions ahead of us, I think we acquitted ourselves well, and we had some really good chances that we should have scored first, and maybe it will settle us down. But I thought all in all it was a great performance.
Yeah, Levi Garcia had a terrific chance about 20 minutes into that contest, and you wonder if he had taken that left-footed chance, how might things be different for Trinidad and Tobago? But I have one simple question for you, Brent Sancho. Is this Trinidad and Tobago team growing? Are they, like Jamaica, going in the right direction heading into World Cup qualifying?
They're not going in the right direction like the Jamaicans are going, certainly not.
Well, they're probably not going as fast, but are they going in the right direction?
Well, let me put it this way. I think the Jamaica team are making strides, and the Trinidad teams are making very, very small steps. Because for all that is good in terms of some of the performances and results, there's still some challenges and major challenges. First of all, when you look at the fact that this is a Trinidad and Tobago team that lost to Nicaragua last year in a game that they had to win in Tobago. They only got into Group A because of the disqualification for Nicaragua, and then they needed a result.
But hold on, Brent. It is a Trinidad and Tobago team that also just beat the USA. It is a Trinidad and Tobago team that I think in many ways pushed Canada on Saturday.
Now, I'll get to that. They beat the US team, but you also have to take into consideration that it's a US team that was already 3 goals up in the first leg and was a man down. And before that red card, they were certainly in the team that was in the ascendancy, the Americans, that is. And I'm not suggesting that it is not some progress being made. I do feel so. I think what needs to be understood is that there's a genuine conundrum that Coach Angus Eve has. His offensive players that are very talented and have the gift to move the ball forward and be very good in 1v1 situations do not give you the kind of appetite defensively that is needed at the international level. So what transpires is a team that is selected that basically it's to stop the opponent from playing. And yes, it's a Canadian team that I think was very underwhelming and certainly there for the taking. But we did not have the tools to put together the right selection to get a result and play on the offensive and play on the front foot, because the players that are offensively, as I mentioned, gives you zero work on the defense. And that, as we saw in some of the games that we played, when we play with a more offensive-minded team, that we leave ourselves very, very vulnerable at the back. So it's finding that balance, I think, is the issue right now that Coach Anglesey has, and will continue to have, because we just don't have it currently in the national setup.
Yeah, Brent, I saw a report this morning with quotes from Levi Garcia that took responsible for the TNT defeat, and he felt that if he had finished better, things could have been different, and he shouldered the responsibility of the TNT loss to the Canadians. How does those comments grab you?
Yeah, I think it's honest of him, but I don't think it's necessary, because as his captain rightfully followed up and said, Aubrey David, that Levi Garcia has been immense for Trinidad and Tobago. He is certainly the player of the future for them. He's certainly the player of the now for them. He's certainly the best player on the team. And he's certainly the most gifted offensive threat that we currently possess. The thing about it is, as I mentioned about Jamaica, he just doesn't have the supporting cast around him, offensively that is, to really see his gifts and the lights of his gifts to shine. And I think that's the challenge that he has as a player. When you looked at what he did against Canada, 9 times out of 10, he had 2-3 Canadians along with him. And he was an isolated figure, offensively that is, for most of the football match. And yes, there were 2 very good opportunities that maybe he should have scored. I think his overall contribution to the national program has been excellent so far. And I expect it to get better as well. And as I said, the players that they have offensively, with more international games, they're going to get better, in being better in transition periods where they can get back defensively. They're going to be more comfortable in possessing the football. Because when you look at the type of players that we have in and around, they don't have a lot of national team caps on their belt. They're still building. They're still a young team. So you could only hope that progress happens quite quickly.
Yeah, well, I remember before the match, Brent, I'd asked you for a prediction, and you did say that in your heart you would look for a 2-1 TNT victory, but in your head, which is the one we took, Canada by 2-0, and that's exactly what happened. So keep up the good work, my brother, as a top analyst, and we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
I'm happy that you highlighted that last, because normally Donald Oliver does not give me credit when I do get my score.
Is Brent the real prediction guru?
The performances will tell. We'll be back with more on the Sports Max Zone after this.